Welcome to Conversations with Kay. I'm Kay Ryder, and every week I talk with Vermonters who are leaders in the fields of education, healthcare, the arts, and community life. My guest is Natalie Neuert, and she is the director of the University of Vermont Lane Series. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be here again.
Yep, nice to have you. How long has the UVM Lane Series been part of the art scene at the university?
Well, we've been part of the art scene in the community for a long time. This is actually, I think, our 61st year. So we were started by a gift given to the university to start a concert series in the mid-50s. So 1950s. So it's been a long time. We were here before a lot of other organizations.
Absolutely. You were kind of the trailblazer, as I remember. I moved here in 1964.
Yes, and we were the trailblazers. I think there was a recognition that this was a cultured community and there was a need for professional live music, and that business was just starting in the United States. That, you know, companies were sending out ballet companies and orchestras, and we sort of jumped right on that bandwagon.
Yeah, you certainly did not. Now, where are your shows performed now, Natalie?
Well, we are now mostly, I mean, I would say 80–90% of what we do in the 300-seat UVM recital hall, which is on Redstone campus. And it's a beautiful, beautiful hall, fantastic acoustics, got two nice pianos, an incredible organ, and it's very intimate. And you're right there. You know, the artist is no more than, 20 yards away from you at any time. And so I think it allows us to do more intimate kinds of chamber music and things that would be hard to do in a big hall.
Right. Now, I have been there for many concerts,
Yes,
and I
you have.
really love the hall. I have to say that. And as you said, you can really get into it.
Yes. I mean, acoustically, the hall is fantastic. We would love to do some upgrades and improvements to it. It has no sort of dedicated theatrical lighting or sound equipment. We bring that in for shows that need it. I would love to see a hall that was really outfitted, so we're working towards that, and that's hopefully something that will happen in the future.
Good for you. Now, Natalie, you have written that this year's season is designed with cultural journeys in mind. What do you mean by a cultural journey?
Well, I feel like, the way that a culture sort of communicates and lasts in its region, or as it moves through the world, is through music and through food and through language. I think those are the three big things, and I wanted to explore that idea with music, that some of the shows we're doing are groups that, perhaps their music originated in one part of the world, but then moved through and was influenced by other cultures. So that was sort of a theme for me, and as we talk about the shows, we can sort of circle back to that, and how the idea of like a cultural diaspora is carried through music. I think that's interesting.
Right. Now, many countries and artists will be part of the UVM Lane Series Global Journey this year. I think you brought along some excerpts, some groups who are coming, and we will look at those now and listen to them. Vermont Neuert from Quebec.
Yes, I'll just say one quick thing before we cue it up, which is that Vermont Neuert is an example of this, because that music, of course, came from northern France, and then it moved to the freezing cold northern, Quebec. And then again, there was another diaspora in which those people were expelled, the Acadians, from where they lived, and that music became Cajun music in Louisiana. So that's another example of music that's moved. But what we hear with Vermont Neuert is a very sort of pure Quebecois version of that, and I don't think anybody, people can argue with me, but I'm not sure anybody does it quite as well as Levant. So maybe we could hear that little clip.
Great.
Durham, c'est aujourd'hui que je m'adresse à vous pour vous faire mon rapport des nouvelles de nous. Quand jadis vous pensiez qu'après la rébellion, vous aviez condamné les gens de ma nation.
Vous aviez condamné les gens de ma nation.
Combien sur votre roi n'était pas un sujet En commun nous n'avions que vos banques et nos prêts. Mais ces malentendus sont maintenant désuets. Comme ce train de ce pays, né d'une union de fer.
Comme cette reine de ce pays, né d'une union de fer. Tu rames, tranquillera, deux pays dans le Canada. Tu rames, tranquillera, deux pays dans le Canada. Il y aura toujours des hauts, des bas. Il y aura toujours des hauts, des bas. Vous seriez certainement.
That's great.
It's great
Now,
music.
Yeah, where did you first find them, hear them?
Well, I'm kind of a groupie. I first heard them at the Celtic Colors Festival many years ago. That's a festival in Cape Breton Island, and where they really celebrate music of all cultures, but mostly Celtic music. But they always have Quebecois or Acadian bands at that festival, and I liked them so much I followed them around from venue to venue. You'll notice a few interesting things in that music, of course. There's impeccable harmonies, and there's a kind of call and response to the singing, and then, of course, that amazing foot tapping, foot percussion that the fiddler does. So people love them. It's going to sell out like crazy. So I will say to your audience, if you want tickets to that one, it's the first show that will sell out. They have a big following.
Great, great. I like that music.
Yeah, it's very likable. It's sort of impossible not to like it.
Yeah, yeah, and it is unique. It's different.
Right.
I love it. I really like it too. You said they play in bars in Montreal?
They do. I mean, I recently saw them in a bar in Montreal, but they've become a pretty big band. Actually, to see them in a 300-seat hall is a treat.
Great.
I think they play in much bigger venues now.
Now, we have somebody with an interesting name for classical music here, Orion Wife, playing Scarlatti.
Yes, Orion Weiss is, we do piano every year. We have a great piano, and the hall is fantastic for solo piano. Orion Weiss is a youngish performer. I think he's maybe in his very early 30s. I think he's an impeccable, beautiful performer. His music is, or his interpretations of classical music are very soulful, I think, as well as technically incredible. And actually what we're about to hear in the clip is Scarlatti, which is, of course, very technically difficult music. But I think the soulfulness in the expression comes through in his playing. So I hope people enjoy that.
Well, I'm sure they will. A lot of people can hit the right notes, but it's really harder to get the right sound, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, very
beautiful,
good. Beautiful,
right?
Lovely.
Really beautiful. And there's something sort of weirdly contemporary in his approach, I think, to classical music. I don't know. I feel like he's not bringing himself back in time. He's bringing music into the future, which I really enjoy. So I think for a younger audience who would like to hear some classical music, that would be a great one to try.
What else is he playing?
On his program, he's playing some Mozart. He's playing some Bach, and I think he's playing some Brahms, and then a few contemporary things as well.
Good,
Yeah.
good. We have to, I love the music from Latin and South America.
Yes, me too.
I do. I love it. I love it. We need to hear more music from our hemisphere, I think.
Absolutely, I would totally agree with that. Yeah, we have a group from East LA that plays Mexican, a style of Mexican music called Son Jarocho. They're called Las Cafeteras, and they played at Signal Kitchen, sort of down the street from here, this summer. Actually, it's funny, the agent called me and he said, I've booked Las Cafeteras into Signal Kitchen. Do you have a problem with that? Because I'm bringing them in October. And I said, no, absolutely not. It's the opposite. I'm think that introduces them to the Burlington audience, and then they get the chance to hear this very sort of political and contemporary Mexican sounding band, or influenced by this Mexican style. So yes, I agree. I think the music of our hemisphere is very important to hear.
Now we have one more group here.
Oh, for
now
our
jazz.
clips.
Jazz is American music, and we have for the Rhythm Future Quartet, hot jazz, club jazz.
Well, actually, so it is. It's the most American of genres, of course. We invented it. But, the French really loved it, and they picked up jazz in the 20s and brought it over there, where it took a sort of unique turn. The style of jazz we call gypsy jazz or hot club jazz. The main practitioners who brought that music to the people in Paris were Django Reinhardt and Stefan Grappelli, guitar player and fiddle player. I really love this style of jazz. It's just infectious. It's impossible not to love it. It's very virtuosic. So this is a young ensemble. We've had a lot of hot club jazz players on the Lane series. This is a young group that I heard for the first time about a year ago. And the fiddler came with John Jorgensen, who's a terrific guitarist, on the Lane series 2 years ago. And I thought, this is a guy to watch. It turns out this fiddle player, Jason Anick, is the youngest instructor or youngest professor ever employed by Berklee School of Music. He's a hot, he's the real deal, this guy. You'll see in a minute what he can do. The guitar player is also unbelievable. So very intricate, very swinging style of jazz. Maybe we can hear it now.
Great. I'm waiting. Josephine Baker brought jazz to Paris too.
That's right, about the same time frame. I mean, the Django and Stefan were playing from that time forward into the 30s and 40s, and a lot of American GIs heard this music when they were over there. So it's very virtuosic, as you can hear, and it's unique in that the rhythm section is really, there's there's a guitar player who's playing melodically as well as the fiddle player, and then the rhythm section are more guitar players. So there's often two other guitar players who sort of take the place of the percussion. There's almost never percussion in a hot club band. So it has a very different kind of sound. This band also has, as you saw, a bass player to sort of help carry the rhythm. But yeah, lots of fun. People love it. So hope to see lots of people there.
You're going to have a fun series, Natalie. You're going to have a big fun series.
I think so. I think so.
Let's go back to our Quebecois group there, La Levante Nord. It's easy to forget, isn't it, that we have distinct French culture so close to us, 2 hours away.
Yes, and also we can also say that we have it here because, a lot of those people migrated here, which is why you see so many French last names even in Burlington. So it is a very living culture that's both right across the border and one generation or two generations removed in Vermont. So yeah, I think people really can relate to that.
Now you're bringing a group called Arrhythmia, Balkan music.
Yes.
And that is again, very distinct music. And you mentioned the group from playing the Mexican music, and you also have Black Mambazo.
Yes.
They've been here before, and they're coming back. 3 different parts of the world, 3 very different parts of the world. Tell what is unique about each group.
Well, Arrhythmia is an interesting group. It's 2 sort of very fine musicians in their own right, solo artists. One is a guitar player and one is an accordion player. So they've played with lots of different ensembles, but they're known as soloists. They both have a shared Balkan heritage. One is from Bosnia, the other I'm actually not sure of, but one of the former Yugoslav countries. They may both be Bosnian, but I'm not positive. And they came together at a festival and played together for the first time, and it was really rather magical. So they play on these 2 instruments, music that to a Bosnian person or a person from other countries in that region would instantly recognize as folk music, with a sort of interesting slant through these musicians, sort of their own culture and their own solo styles. They also play Baroque music. They are fine musicians. So that's just something very unique.
So you have an accordion.
Yeah, accordion and guitar. And so that's Arrhythmia. Ladysmith Black Mambazo, they've been here on the Flynn series, I think, a couple of times. And when Steve McQueen, the director of the Flynn, mentioned that he was interested in bringing them back, I asked if we could go along for the ride and co-present that show, because I'm just a great admirer of that ensemble. They really got famous in the United States with the release of Graceland, the Paul Simon album, which so many of us can sing every song on. He used a lot of musicians from South Africa on that album, but Ladysmith Black Mambazo is probably the band that stands out the most. And what they really are is an a cappella vocal ensemble. So if you remember the song Diamonds on the Soles of Their Shoes, that's all them in the intro and the background of that song. So they became famous with the release of that album. But the truth is they were a sort of award-winning South African ensemble well before Paul Simon, and as a matter of fact, they were banned from competing in a cappella competitions because they won everything. They just won everything, so they sort of were banned. And they have a real visionary leader who's really kept them in the public eye because I'm sure they've had personnel changes, but just beautiful, soulful singing and gesture and movement. In a very specific style of South African vocal music. Yeah.
Speaking of soulful music, now you have a group coming, the Guy Mendenlau
yes.
Ensemble. Now they take us back to a forgotten time in history. Sometimes, people, they intermarry or whatever, what happens, they're forgotten. And then, but this group, they're going to play Tales from the Forgotten Kingdom.
Yes, this is very interesting. I'm really, really interested. I've heard them. It's incredibly beautiful music. So there was a culture of Jews in Spain during the medieval time. They had lived there for many generations. They were expelled during the Spanish Inquisition. And they took their language, which was basically medieval Spanish, and their music, and they traveled east. And they settled primarily in 3 places, in Sarajevo, Salonika, and Jerusalem. So these are it's a culture of medieval Spanish Jews expelled from their country who hit the road and brought this music. Now, what's interesting from a scholarly point of view is they're still there. There are still Ladino, is the language, families in Sarajevo and Salonika, and of course in Jerusalem. There are people of this heritage. And what's particularly interesting from a scholarly point of view is that it is our contemporary link with medieval Spanish. So the language they speak, Ladino, is almost a carbon copy of what Spanish people would have spoken, Jews and Christians, would have spoken in Spain in the 14th century. So that's fascinating, right? The music is amazing. It's all about shipwrecks and love affairs. It's very dramatic music. And this ensemble does it just beautifully. It's beautiful. music sung in this exquisite Spanish language. So it's certainly got an interest to the Jewish community, but it really an interest to anyone who is fascinated by medieval music, by Spanish, by Romance languages, by the idea of migration, and just loves beautiful music.
Well, now I know that you love Celtic music.
I do.
And you have
I admit it.
You have a young Celtic group coming. They're called Coig.
Yes. So the thing that's unique about Coig for us is that we almost never double book a band. So we like to give a few years between inviting people back because there are so many ensembles to hear. Like, why would we present the same ensemble a couple of years in a row when there's so much more to see? But Coig walked off the stage last Christmas time into the lobby to sell CDs, and I said, I'm bringing you back next year. That is how strongly the reaction of the audience was to this group. They're quite young, two superb young fiddlers, just great music. Anyone who's heard Natalie McMaster knows this particular Cape Breton style, which is keyboards and fiddles mostly, usually guitar as well. And they were charming. They were great musicians. They came together as sort of a showcase band of the best young people playing on Cape Breton. And we just fell in love with them. We absolutely fell in love with them, and they're coming back, and people are buying those tickets like crazy.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're selling tickets early. Now, the Lane series is also noted for its classical music concerts. You've always featured a lot of piano, and you have some special people, the Piano Consortium, how you sponsor these.
We do. We have a group of donors who come together to really allow us to bring the best pianists. So, you know, we like to try to raise money through corporate and personal donations for every show because the ticket price really can't carry the price of the fees for the stature of artists we want to bring. And we had this idea that what if we sort of made a club of people who love piano music and they could come together and support piano. So we usually do at least 4 sort of major piano events per year. And we heard Orion Weiss. We also have Beatrice Arana, who was the Italian silver medalist of the Van Cliburn competition in the last round, which was almost 4 years ago. It's coming up again in a year from now. We loved Beatrice. She was here. She's playing the Goldberg variations. So we have some Bach.
Very good.
And then a big favorite in this area is Vasily Primakov. He's been here with the VSO. He's been here on the Lane series. He's really incredible Russian. He lives in New York now, but his soul of his playing is Russian and really big piano music. So it turns out he has a duo piano partner, so they play 2 pianos, 4 hands. And I thought what fun that would be, since we have 2 good pianos, to bring Vasily and his duo piano partner, Natalia Lavrova, and they are playing a huge Russian program. I mean, you're going to hear Tchaikovsky and you're going to hear Rachmaninoff, the big stuff.
The big stuff.
So
the heavy
that'll
stuff.
bring the
There
house
we go.
down. Yeah.
There we go.
Right, we'll have to tune the piano like 3 times.
Now, before I forget, where can people call? And I know you have a good website.
We do have a good website. Our website can easily be found from the UVM website, but we're uvm.edu/Lane Series. Or just Google UVM Lane Series and we'll come right up. 656-4455 is our local phone number. We're happy to answer any questions. We're happy to take your order on the phone. We take a lot of orders through the website, whatever is most convenient. And we're happy to, I'll hold this up a little on the camera. We have a beautiful brochure. If you're the kind of person that likes to read like a magazine, you know, read through everything, I'm that kind of person. I like to sit down with it and really take my time. So we're happy to, if you call us, to send you a brochure if you haven't already gotten one. So we want to hear from you. It's all about word of mouth and about friends, because we consider ourselves a real friendly series, very intimate. And we love to welcome new people. Can I mention one quick thing? We do a really interesting thing on the Lane series. We sell at an incredibly steep discount if you can or are able or want to buy every show that's at the recital hall. It's about 20 shows, maybe more, 21 shows. we will sell you those tickets for, it comes out to, I think, a little less than $15 a ticket. We call it the Music Lovers Deal. And it's a great thing to do with a friend, right? So if you think I can't go to 21 shows, but my neighbor and I could share it, and then I'll go to some, she'll go to some. So that's just something I love people to know about.
Very good idea. Now I love to talk with you. We have less than 5 minutes. Would you believe that?
Well, ask me a question.
Jazz is American music, and we talked about that a little bit. But singing, vocal music, has to be as old as the history of people of this earth. I mean, you know, people have moved around from place to place throughout history, sometimes because they chose to for jobs or something like that, sometimes because they were forced out by wars or intolerance or famine, even in certain countries. But why is it so important? People have gone all over the place. Why is it really so important for us today that they carried their music and culture along with them?
That's true. I mean, I think that, you know, families sing together. I think that if everything was taken away from you because of a war or a famine or genocide, the one thing you have is your voice and maybe a stick to beat a drum with and your legs to dance. I think it goes beyond music. I mean, I think it's the arts in general. Certainly dance and visual art is part of that, theater. So, you know, I just think if everything's taken away from you, you still have that ability to create music and to like soothe your soul and to carry your language and your culture through that music. So I just think it's the most human of experiences. And when we come together in a small auditorium or a big auditorium, and, you know, everyone immediately has this, whether you love the music or not, you have this group, you're having this group experience with other human beings that are sharing this listening and recognition of what's important in life. I mean, for me, it's the most important thing.
Now, I recall that at Christmas time, I'm half German, and at Christmas time, on Christmas Eve, we always sang Silent Night in German.
Yeah.
Now, this was the only time during the year that any German was around.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting example because that's where it stayed in your family, right? But maybe there were foods that you ate too at Christmas time, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's fascinating. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This young band Las Cafeteras, who are on the cover, they're from East LA. They're of Mexican or Latina extraction, but you know they live in Los Angeles. They're Americans, so they're using this culture to express their contemporary culture.
Yeah, we don't have much time, about 2 minutes probably. Why are live performances? Now you hit upon this a little bit. Live performance, you're sitting there, you're part of the experience that night. Why are they perhaps the very best way to share the joy, sadness, and lives of people from another culture?
Well, you know, I think so much of our lives are sort of mapped out and planned. You know, live music is a truly spontaneous thing. I mean, even if you're playing the Goldberg Variations, which is written down in a piece of music that's been performed for a long time, it's still coming through your own heart, your own hands, your own interpretation. So there's no question that it's you know, it's a beautiful and very special thing that we still share. It's amazing in this age of technology that we still have this.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you have a very successful season, Natalie. Thank you for coming again.
Thank you, Kay.
I've enjoyed talking with you as always. Thank you for joining us on Conversations with Kay. I hope you like music.